welcome back to another episode of More Than Rust. Today we're tackling this Rover 2000 again. So, last episode, the first time you saw this car, we pulled out the interior. Today, we'll be pulling out more of the interior. Ultimately, what I thought to do last time was to pull out the two glove boxes, see if there's one on each side, because everyone has gloves in a Rover. And then I'll be starting pulling out this wiring. Also, I have already stripped out divisional engine, gearbox, brake booster, bunch of non-necessities under the bonnet here. That's all in preparation to put the new engine in. That's when I get around to putting the new engine in. I'll get it at some point. Oh, I can't see myself. That's good. So, seats are gone. So much more space for activities in here. Like putting more stuff out there. Can't think about other activities you're doing in a Rover. Much too dignified for that. These very stiff things are the glove boxes. They should open more than this, but apart from a bar doesn't do hinges much good apparently. So, I've taken them out. Latch. I like those things to fix. So, as you can see, I've been a bit of a busy bee since last time I had the camera turned on. Glove boxes, I've snapped both the side and driver's side. Also, I've removed the centre console. I then foraged around and found the box of all the wiring from the teaser and decided to see where I threw it in the car. Ultimately, where it's when I first got in the car was a big heap here that made it quite hard to do anything, especially record myself because I was looking like a big part of spaghetti. Could pretend to be an Italian chef, but it wasn't too helpful. So, I kind of laid it out how I think it's going to be. And yes, it does look like a pile of multicolored spaghetti still, but it's half organised. So, quick run through of what we've got. We have the main fuse boxes out of the teaser, both passenger side and driver side. They will probably live down here somewhere, I think you can see, in the kick panels. These basically run every wire for the entire car, both sides. So, kind of not getting rid of them is quite helpful for me, not having to work out what every single wire here does and repin the entire lot. So, off these boxes, there will be this multicard lot, which is actually dashboard wiring only. So it is everything, light switches, we'll do the ignition switch, we'll do the lights, we'll do the center console, generally there's a handbrake, but radio and potentially heater controls if I can be bothered to back wire the whole lot to an old system. Because this car's obviously going to run a fan and a tap to turn how hot to be. The teaser was a lot more smart and went, ooh, how hot would you like it? 26 degrees? Okay, I'll adjust everything for you. Or in the case of most cars, won't adjust everything for you and below cold air at you. Whatever. Right. Enough rambling. This line here runs from passenger side all the way through and back. So obviously picks up both doors for the door closed sensors. It also does the fuel pump, which is originally underneath the passenger seat. From there I had to extend those wires to make it work for what I want to do with it. On through to the boot to do all of the wiring for taillights. Yes, they've all been kept. Yes, it's a bug of a job. But I'm pretty sure after 50 odd years this old wiring is probably allowed the Lucas smoke. And I don't want to try and find the issues with it. So, this was an easier solution. Onto the driver's side. Much the same, except the run down the side of the car on that side does the two doors and then a bunch of miscellaneous items that lived above or on the passenger shelf at the back. These include like a GPS unit, the TV controller unit. None of it worked, it's all just there. So again, that'll be removed. So all I end up with is the 2 door open close sensors and another level sensor that lives on that side of the car. Engine bay wise, this vehicle gets a bit questionable. See you around in a second and I'll explain why. Cool. Alright. I'm sorry I'm cut out of the shop. You know, I'm not standing over here. Wow, I'm white. Okay then. Here we have the Rover engine bay. So I want to sit inside of it because, you know, they can be surrounded in the wiring. So, what we have here is actually only half the engine bay wires. So, obviously, driver side loom, passenger side loom. So, stop the easy side, driver side. All that runs down this side of the car is lights, a couple of to be removed sensors, for instance, ABS controls, don't different than those. Brake fluid level, probably give it that one. But majority of stuff here is, you know, headlights, indicators, and for some reason it's still a random crash sensor. I thought I moved all those, but anyway. Try again. We'll start with the driver's side loom, because that's actually the simpler one in the engine bay here. So what we have on this side is a couple of things that are going. For instance, we've got some ABS wiring still here. This car will not be run with ABS, that's a little too complex for me to get into. So that's going, as well as obviously removal wise, there's still airbag sensor wiring, which can't be going. Stuff that's keeping, obviously all the headlight wiring, indicator wiring, and parking lot wiring. There is a brake fluid sensor connector here. Again, I might as well keep one. It's all off a float in the bottle, and the Rover bottle still have a float, so that's perfect. And other things like the wiper motor wiring are going to be kept but modified. Mostly because this wiper motor style is obviously a 5-pin wiper motor. I have a feeling the one that we've got in here is probably 2 wires, power and ground, 1 speed. Maybe 2 speed, in which case it would be 3 wires. Fancy. But, as I say, the wiring can be modified, tweaked to make it work. The earlier Rover switches and the earlier Rover wiper. Got that? Cool. On to the passenger side. What we have, start at the top. This here is the firewall. This one's through the firewall and connects up to the main fuse box on the passenger side. Being the smaller the fuse box is, it is actually the main fuse box because it takes the main power feed. Coming forward from that, we have, in no particular order, because I'm trying to pick things up, work out what they are. This slot here is all for the engine. Plugs go into the ECU, sockets connect from the engine back through. That's the things that go back to the dashboard, like, you know, speed sensors, water temp, stuff like that. Alright. We also have a very small relay box, which will be living up here by the headlights, with a diagnostic port. Again, being kept. May not, when I start playing with things, realise that those relays are no longer used, and I'll get rid of it. To that point, I'm not getting rid of anything. Also, I feel obviously you've got your headlights for the passenger side of the car, you know, sort of required somewhere. And behind me is the main Toyota fuse box and relay box. This does a lot of the relays for the engine side of things. So it does all the injectors and everything else with relays. So again, going to be kept. Plus, that's where your main positive terminal is as well. And all this lot is joined together by a massive loom behind me. Why I couldn't find inside the car, I have no idea. But apparently, that's too difficult. So, the problem with this. Ultimately, all comes down to the shape of the firewall in a rover. It's a weird shape. Is it simplified? Yeah. So, in the middle here, we have a heater box. Really big black thing. Right. Which actually steps the firewall forwards in this point. So if you were to run this wiring harness across it, like they do in every other car, the grommet holes will be a long way back, and therefore you have no wire at all left when you get inside the car. Keep in mind I've got to go from where they come through the firewall, down and plug back in. It's probably close to 40 to 50 centimetres worth of run. This tiny little bit here ain't going to be enough. This bit from the grommet to the end of the wires, probably going to be doubled. So these boots will be moving. But hey, what an easy project. I would have done something else that wasn't a woven of teasers smushed together at high speed. So ultimately, there's only half the wiring here. All the wiring for engine related is still on the engine. It's actually quite nice the way they do it. So I actually have 3 plugs that come off the engine that plug into the ECU control box. From there, it then gets connected back up to the rest of the loop. Which means the room of the engine is nice and easy. You unplug 3 plugs, you stick them onto the engine, that's your wiring done. And then, you put it. It also makes wiring back in quite a bit nicer. So you end up with body looms, which is what I've got in here at the moment, that just sort of plug into the engine. So, now I've been around and worked out roughly where the wire wants to sit. Still kind of spelled but the plan is in place. The first step I'm going to do is mount 2 fuse boxes. One per side, 2 drivers, 1 for passengers. So, they're not overly complicated. The one thing is, they have stuff on the back of them. Tota, what the hell are you thinking? Why have you put blobs on the back of a bloody fuse box? Oh well, guess I'm going to have to take the grinder to the inner panels. These fuse boxes are going to live down here. So, will be a case of remove carpet, make a suitable sized hole to let the relay sit behind it, and bolt them up. This is kind of temporary, pending me working out exactly where the engine bay wiring is going to come through the bulkhead, and where all this lot wants to terminate. But I've got to start somewhere, and well, this makes the most sense to me. Best to get grinding. Oh heck. Well, yep, I went there. There's now a hole in the footwell. The rover is porous anyway, but the hole is bigger, so I can mount this with little relays in the back down here, like this, flush to the wall. So we still lose a bit of footwell, but you've got all the rest of the space to use. You have to just stop whinging. Now, this was the easy side. The driver side is a little more complicated because someone put a throttle pedal in there. For once it wasn't me. So that's good. So I think the first thing to do, draw a couple holes and mount this board permanently. Then I can work out where all this wiring is going. Can't really sit on the parcel shelf. Should be in the boot. The fuse box is now mounted down here. So a couple of M6 bolts will hold it on. A hole in the back, the relays and stuff sit behind it. It's golden. I've also tied up some of the spaghetti that is the wiring onto this car. So this bunch that disappears upwards is all the stuff destined for the dashboard. So that's all the switches, the radio, the old heater controls, the ignition switch, that sort of stuff. This harness here sits on the floor. You can clearly see is all the rear stuff. So everything running down inside the car. So it's going to be door switches. It would be the old seat sensors. They're obviously not being used anymore. going back, you then got rear speakers, and all the rear lights are actually on this harness. Because I was tidy. So, kind of the passenger side of the car done for now. Obviously, before I start working my way backwards into the wiring. So, next thing I have to get onto is doing the driver's side box. But it's kind of a slight issue with that. Driver's side of the car. You tell because the steering was in my head. So, I say the wiring on the passenger side has already been kind of worked out where it's going to go and everything else. This here is that same loom that comes across the dashboard to plug everything in. Ignition switch, every connector for the side, and column switches, which are in the middle of the car on one of these, not on the column, but I'll come to that when I get to it. Really, the issue down here is not the wiring. Well, not directly anyway. The issue is where I've mounted the fuse box on the other side. It's a great place to mount it, but in this side of the car, the throttle pedal is kind of going to be in the fuse box, I feel. I could try mounting it and seeing, but I've got a feeling it's going to be right in the way. Plus, this fuse box is bigger. So there's some strange controller box on top, which I don't know what it does. Nope, I tell a lie. I just read it. It's a body control module. Probably need to keep that. I feel I'm going to need to do some thinking about this one. Well, surprise! It's decided to start raining. Really, really loudly. Well, poop. What have we got done? So the passenger side fuse box is now mounted. The wiring across the dashboard has sort of been worked out where it's going to be sat. And the driver's side fuse box is a complete up and near option I have no idea what I'm going to do with. Wiring wise to the back, mostly thought out. Now I'm going with it all. So it's going to go down the passenger side, through the hole that's already in the rear seats, into the boot. Nice and easy. Engine bay wiring, we have a slight issue in the fact that the wires that go into the cab don't look like they're going to be long enough. So they're going to have to move where the hole is in the firewall to let them through, or play around with the lengths of some of the wires by, well, moving the grommets around.